the types of numbers in terms of income that the drug cartels, and it's actually a better business because it's easier to get across. You don't got to build tunnels and put them in hubcaps and put the drugs underneath seats and what other creative ways they have in distributing these drugs to America. You just let people walk across the border and bring them back and bring them forth, and coyotes bring them and drop them in the Arizona desert, pick them up, and they all of a sudden become human trafficking victims. The human trafficking, the gangs here in Los Angeles, the gangs along the border on the American side, just some of those here in L.A. There's over 125,000 gang members here in L.A. in Hispanic Latino gangs from MS-13 to 18th Street. These gangs have been around for a number of years, decades. They're generational, and now they're moving into the human trafficking rather than the drug running because it's easier to get through the system if you get caught. And human beings just keep on coming. You don't got to water them. You don't got to feed them. You don't got to protect them. They just keep showing up. And so that has become big business on the border, as well as the drugs and the other things that they were talking about. So, when Trump talks about wanting to stop this, now mind you, he's never been in power. He has never been in power at all. Hillary Clinton has been in power, especially when she was Secretary of State. She was definitely in a powerful position, and she talks about her ability to have her experience. Well, it sure increased under her time as Secretary of State. The illegal cartels, gun shipping, drugs, human trafficking, and all of that seemed to have really increased in the last 10 years. Well, that's interesting. The last 10 years. So what has our government been doing the last 10 years under the Obama administration for the last 8 years? What have they been doing to stop this? If you look at Republican and Democratic, what have they been doing? Okay, DNC, Democrats, what have you been doing? Tell me something that you have done. See, I sell real estate. I'm all over Southern California. I also fight human trafficking. I can speak to this issue personally. And I've been fighting human trafficking for about 10 years here in Los Angeles. And I will tell you that it has grown exponentially. It is unbelievable how much it's grown from when I first started 10 years ago. People literally are human trafficked for everything, for free labor, for sex, for body parts, for black market selling of babies, organ transfers, kidnapping, all kinds of just really horrible things. It has grown so much. And I can tell you, too, that in a lot of the neighborhoods I don't sell Beverly Hills. I don't sell Pacific Palisades. I'm not selling Brad Pitt a house. I'd love to sell a $20 million house from Madonna or from P. Diddy. I would love to have sold him that house up there in the mountains, the spelling house, the spelling house, $15 million, $20 million, $100. I would have loved to sell Hugh Hefner's mansion that just sold for $100 million 2 months ago, the Playboy Mansion. The commission on that at 2%, you figure it out. But I don't sell that stuff on a regular basis. You know what I sell? East LA, Pacoima, Sun Valley, Reseda. I sell the city of Culver City. I sell Central Los Angeles. I sell Compton. I sell Watts. I sell Inglewood. I sell Hollywood once in a while. I'll sell city of San Gabriel. I'll sell Lancaster. I'll sell Reseda, Canoga Park. I sell where most people don't even want to live, but people are living there. I see the graffiti. I see the gangsters. I see where the traditionally African-American neighborhoods have completely turned into Latino neighborhoods now. Completely. blows my mind. And I've seen the gangs come in there and take over and just destroy neighborhoods. You just see it everywhere. And if you're observant to it and you're out in it every day, if you sit in your lofty palace, high in the skyscrapers of your life, and you make these determinations, well, get down in the street with me for 2 weeks, okay? And you'll see how it's grown. Spend 37 years door knocking neighborhoods that you probably would be afraid to walk through with an armed military insurgent around you. Okay? Do that with me. And you'll see how the neighborhoods have changed all across Los Angeles. And it really doesn't matter to me how they've changed. The fact is, they've changed. And that's not politically correct. That's a fact. So I've seen what illegal immigration has done to our cities. I've seen what illegal immigration has done to our schools. I see what illegal immigration does to our streets. I see what illegal immigration does to the trash buildup in the alleys. I see it loud and clear. The illegal vendors on the street. Go to MacArthur Park on a Saturday afternoon. It's illegal to be vending without a permit on the street in the city of Los Angeles. But there's 50,000, last estimate, of illegal vending going on. I see what opening up late night taco selling right next to somebody's house that they're trying to raise their family ends up smelling like, and the disgusting urination and defecation. I see this stuff. Why? Because I used to know what it was like before that got here. Okay? I have a recognizable difference in my head. I've seen the destruction of neighborhoods when you get illegal vending in there. And illegal vending, people say, well, everybody has a chance to start their business in America. No, you don't. I'm sorry. You don't have a chance. You don't have a chance at all if you don't come here legally. Go back home. You don't have a chance. My forefathers came here legally. My parents came here legally. My father was born in Chicago. My mother was born in Miami. My mother's mother's father were born in Buffalo, New York, and Illinois. On that side, it goes back to the 18th century here in this country. On my father's side, his father was born in Spain. His mother was born in Mexico of Spanish blood. His father was born in Spain of Spanish and Italian blood. And they came over here legally, went through Ellis Island. Okay? I mean, this is what happened, So look if you come to this country illegal, you don't have a right to be here. Bottom line. I mean, Trump is a softie compared to my position on it. But here's the point. I've seen how neighborhoods, because the besieged, it's a siege mentality. We have so many people. There was a time not too long ago that you could go down to MacArthur Park. That's called Westlake. That used to be the wealthiest neighborhood in Los Angeles in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, even into the 1950s, before the expansion of LA took place because of the freeway system. Okay? That area down there was where the big old school money of Los Angeles was at. All right? And so I remember those areas. There was a time in my lifetime, in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s, you could go down to MacArthur Park and you could pay $50 and you get yourself a fake driver's license, a fake Social Security card, a fake passport, and fake ID. Just like that. Just like that. Really? I can't go to Mexico and do that. I can't go to El Salvador and do that. I can't go to Russia and do that. Certainly won't be able to go to China or Japan or Korea or Malaysia or Australia or New Zealand or Germany or France or England or Saudi Arabia and do that. But why can they come to my country and do that? No, you can't. You can't come to my country and do that. Go back home. And I'm sorry, kids. Go back with your parents. Now, that's not a favored position here, because there are children that have grown up here not knowing any difference. Well, too bad. That's what I say. So my position is really hardcore. Too bad. You know, you're living in the experiences and the poor decision making of your parents. Come here legally. You come here legally to this country. You start a legal business, not an illegal business. This vending stuff is insane. It's all illegal. They're doing illegal things in an illegal way, compounding their illegality about the whole thing. So you see, what's wrong with protecting our nation's sovereign borders? What's wrong? In Mexico, they got a wall that goes from the Pacific Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico, protecting them against Guatemala. Yeah, Guatemala is a nation on the other side of Mexico. That's their border. Belize and Guatemala. Okay? What? They can have a wall, but we can't? What's wrong with that? I don't see a darn thing wrong with that. But I don't think he's going to build a wall. But I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, we've got to protect America. And you can come to this country legally. No problem. Come to this country the right way. Get an EB-5 like the Chinese do. You know what an EB-5 is? I'll tell you what an EB-5. I've done EB-5 real estate deals. If you buy a property, a business in the United States of America for $500,000 or more under the immigration law, an EB-5, you can move here and it's a fast track to your green card. And once you get your green card, because you're employing people, you bought an existing business that employs people already, and the business is $500,000 minimum, you're employing Americans already, you are fast tracking your green card. And once you get here, you can bring your whole family here. Fast track the green card. That's what the Chinese do. They do it in Vegas. They do it in Los Angeles. They do it in Utah. There's whole centers, immigration centers that are set up. There's attorneys that specialize in EB-5. I've done 3 or 4 transactions like that. Okay? So I know. The problem is we just can't let people Miranda around the border and come here and just disappear. We can't do it. And with the Syrian refugee problem, we definitely can't do it. We can't have millions of people eventually want to run around here not liking the American way. They want to kill us. That's what they want to do under Sharia law. Not just us. They want to kill everybody. They want to chop everybody's head off. Not just us. We're not their focus group, but we're a big part of it. The point is, we have to protect our nation against those that harm us, both physically and also harm us in terms of an overwhelming number of people we have to take care of. I mean, if you get false ID, you can get anything you want. Now, it's harder to get false ID, okay? That's for sure. Absolutely. It's almost impossible now to get fake ID. But that only changed recently, maybe the last 5-6 years. So what's wrong with building a wall? The legal people that come here every day to work in America, they got work visas. They cross the border from Brownsville, Texas, all the way to San Ysidro. That's San Diego, okay? That 2,000-mile border. 1 million people legally come across the border, work every day, and then go back home to Mexico every day. They have a work visa. What's wrong with that? There's trillions of dollars of trade that are going on every single day. But we have to stop the illegal functionality of what's happening. It has destroyed Los Angeles. It has absolutely decimated the coffers of the city of Los Angeles. There's not enough money to support. And we, the taxpayer, are supporting more and more, like 50 million people on welfare or EBT. That has increased in the last 8 years. So tell me, What has the Democrats done? What has one Democrat ever done in the last 10 years to facilitate protecting and keeping our nation a sovereign nation on our southern border? Someone tell me. Please. The biggest problem that Reagan ever did, and I'll never forgive him for this, is that he signed the amnesty bill on his way out. And he let 3 million Mexicans or Latinos and Asians and Northeastern Bloc Russians and all of those groups come in here and gave him amnesty. And he regrets doing that when you read his written autobiography with that. What's wrong with protecting American jobs? People, well, we won't work for those American jobs. You bet you'll work. People will go back to work. You're darn right they will. If given the opportunity. Okay? You know, and so what is wrong with that? Nothing. You tell me what Clinton did in terms of her plan, working with the Obama administration for the last 8 years. Just tell me something that they've done positive towards immigration. Trump has never governed, but he's observed what every common day person observes every day across this nation. If you just observe, you can see it. Okay? You can just see it. They say 8 million, 10 million people have come here illegally. I think it's something like 25 million. In my opinion, I think the number is far greater. It's like unemployment. Unemployment, if you look at real unemployment statistics, what you look at is you look at not the G4, you look at the G6. The G4 tells you who's in unemployment right now, who's getting unemployment services and who's not. That's what that measures statistically. The G6 measures all the people that have dropped off the books, lost all of their unemployment benefits now. They've wore them all out after 3 years, okay? And they have no job, and they have just given up. Given up. Now, if we look at that statistic, it's not 4 or 5%, 6%. It's like 20%, 18%. And that's Depression era, late 1920 numbers. That's the first depression we had after the Civil War in 1873. That's a depression that most people aren't even taught. The depression of 1873, because of the Civil War, this nation was broke. There were no jobs in 1873. It was an agricultural depression that started in Europe and came over here and destroyed millions of acres of crops. And not only that, we had no jobs. We had no money left. All the money was spent because everything was based in gold and silver, backed by gold and silver in the 19th century. So that if it wasn't for it's mind-boggling. And this is when America's government was purchased by the industrialists. If it wasn't for Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan literally walking into the White House and writing a check for the complete debt of the Civil War, Rockefeller, later on after J.P. Morgan, because Rockefeller came in the early part of the 20th century. He was a young man in the 1890s. But by 1917, 1915, 1920, he was in his 30s. Okay? So, and that's when he got his wealth, oil, combustion engine, all of that stuff. Here's the point. The point is, those two fellas, they paid off the American debt. Can you imagine? Two guys. You can't pay off America's debt today. It's $19 trillion. Going to be 20 before Obama leaves. Okay? And not only that, the deferred debt, the deferred debt that nobody talks about, they keep it secret. They don't want anybody to know. The deferred debt is like $125 trillion. It's way up there. And deferred debt is like VA benefits and government benefits that have yet to be paid but have to be paid. Social Security benefits that have yet to be paid but have to be paid. These things off into the future. Deferred debt. That's what that is. We don't have the money. Okay? And there's no two people that are going to be able to pay that one off. So what's wrong with securing our border? What's wrong with making America great? What's wrong with that? You either have the same old, or you make a shift and a change. You want to vote for Johnson? You want to vote for Jill Stein and the two smaller parties? Go for it. Okay? You got to vote. A lot of people shed their blood for your right to vote. If you don't vote, you're disrespectful and you're dishonoring this nation. You don't have to vote, but a lot of people have died for your right to vote. So you vote for somebody, somewhere. It's like the rap songs. Somebody, somewhere, scream! So I mean, you got to vote. But what's wrong with making a fundamental shift, or at least trying? See, that's the key in that respect. So it's going to be an interesting speech he's going to give tonight in terms of the immigration policy that he's going to set up and the dogma and his speech and his policy that he's going to be talking about here. So that I believe that comes on at about 6 o'clock West Coast time and about 9 o'clock East Coast time. So you know what I'm going to be doing here after the show? I'm going to be watching that speech, because that is the crux of his campaign. That basically was the foundational mark that he set when he got started. So it's very important, this aspect of that campaign. So that'll be very interesting. Anyhow, so we didn't really glean too much from that, but we understand that Mexico and America have to work together. So no matter what they say on the stump, on the trail to become president, the countries have to work together. Otherwise, the problem will never be solved. Period. You've got a major problem in Mexico. I mean, I can't go to Mexico anymore. I can never put my foot in Mexico again. I can't even touch Mexican Pacific Ocean. If I stick my nose across the border and smell Mexican oxygen, I'm in trouble. I will never go to Mexico again. That's another day. I'll tell you that story. It's an intriguing story. It really is. But I was told by a blonde-haired, now check this out. You want to talk about something that is completely opposite of what your mind creates in its own imagination, right? I was told by a 6'1", blonde-haired, Caucasian. This guy was as white as an albino from Finland, okay? He had hazel green eyes, right? He looked like somebody from Oklahoma back in the 1920s. I mean, absolutely, his English, it was absolutely perfect. It was like I was talking to Lee. He sounded American. I thought he was a gringo, okay? This guy, and his Spanish was beautiful. It was Castilian, educated Spanish. See, in Mexico, you have different levels of Spanish speaking. Like the Presidente, and they learn a different syntax of Spanish than the person that doesn't go to a lot of schooling. And we happen to get a lot of people in this country that don't do a lot of schooling, and the reason is because you see, people don't understand geography and history. I'm going to get to that loan in just a second, but you see, America and Mexico, that border is across a desert. It's a desert. The Rio Grande and the Colorado River that used to dump off into Mexico, okay, and into Baja California, into Mexico, the Colorado River and the Rio Grande. That's about the only major sources of water they have. So when there were no borders and there were no countries and there was just open space and nobody owned anything, you got desert all the way from, guys, you got desert all the way from Northern California all the way down to halfway through Mexico. It was just on the West Coast side. Blazing hot cactus desert. All right? So the green trees and the water and all the beautiful farms, natural greenery is much more south in Mexico. As you get to Guatemala, the jungles start growing, and where Mexico City is on kind of the central towards the eastern part of Mexico, and Veracruz in the Gulf of Mexico, there's more water in the air. You've got the East Coast. You got all that stuff. It looks very similar in a lot of ways to Georgia and Florida, and Belize in there is very jungle. And so you have a whole different setup. It kind of makes a transition. Well, you see, Mexico developed itself in kind of a two-tier system. You had those that were educated and those that weren't. And it sort of has done that right along through their whole history. And so a lot of the folks that have come here from Mexico are not Vicente Fox. They're not the president of Mexico. They're not Carlos Slim, who's like the fourth wealthiest man in the world at $72 billion at one time. He's their media mogul in Mexico, okay? He's not coming to America. No way. He doesn't have to. All right. So what we get here in America is we get an educational level that is very different than what we have here in America. Okay? And that's the difference. Okay? That's why they want to come here. For the opportunities they don't have in their own homeland, in their own country. All right. So the point is, I can't go to Mexico. This blonde-haired, hazel green-eyed, 6'1" man who spoke perfect English and perfect Spanish, he looked me straight in my face and he said, Jesse Torero. Just like that. No, he didn't go Torero. He didn't do any. He said it the American way. Jesse Torero. You never come back to my country again. Because if you do, you may never get out of the desert. That's what this man told me. At the San Ysidro border, the overpass that people walk across from San Ysidro to Tijuana, right there used to be an immigration office, Inmigración, right? And right there in that room, he said, Jesse Torero, never come back to my country again. Because if you do, you may not get out of the desert. That was 1993. I have never gone back to that country again. I won't even fly a plane over that country at 35,000 feet in a big, huge jumbo jet. Because what will happen is it'll crash to the ground in a ball of fire. Everybody will be dead, but I'll still be alive. And that old man's son is going to come out and he's going to pick me up out of the ashes. Everybody will be worried about me because I'm the only living creature that survived that plane crash, nosedive from 35,000 feet. And he'll look at me and he'll go, Jesse Torero, you came back to my father's country. Shall we take a walk out into the desert? I'm not going to be that guy. I'll tell you the story of what happened later, some other day. All right. So you have a mortgage payment. Who has a mortgage payment? Raise their hand. I got a mortgage payment. I got a mortgage. Okay, everybody. Who wants a mortgage payment? Who would like to have a house? And you don't win the California lottery, or your second uncle's cousin's brother doesn't leave you $4 million in their will and their living trust. Everybody wants to have a house. It's part of the American dream. It really is. America created home ownership on the planet Earth for the middle and low class person. Yes, us, eons and eons of peasants. Us, eons and eons of peons. We in America, after World War II, created what is now known as the middle class, and we built millions of houses after World War II, okay? And we created what became the middle class of America, all right? And we get a mortgage. So you put a little down payment down on that mortgage, and you start making the payments. Now, let's say those payments are, at 6 or 7%, okay? Interest, or maybe 5 or 6%. And you notice that the interest rate has dropped under 4, in some cases, for the perfect person, under 3 in some cases. But for whatever reasons, you can't get out of your mortgage for whatever reasons. And I'm not going to go into all of those because there's 1,001 reasons and then 10 more I can't think of. But you can't get out of your mortgage. Well, there's a program that was created a number of years ago, but it really wasn't marketed too well, especially after the 2008 subprime blowup, when all of a sudden, so many foreclosures. You remember all the foreclosures, tens of thousands of houses foreclosed upon across the nation, ghost towns. They would burn houses down because they were falling apart. They'd rather clear the land. They did a lot of that in Detroit. But all these foreclosures, and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the two quasi-government agencies that would take back all of these properties that, like Wells Fargo, Chase, City National, Bank of America, they would provide these loans insured by FHA and the VA, okay? And so when they went belly up, the government had to take them back. And Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac took a whole bunch of them back as well. Not just FHA or VA loans, but they took a whole bunch of loans back from all kinds of banks. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that's why they almost went out of business. The simplicity of it, they had to pay out so much money in these insurance payments to the banking industry that they didn't have any more money in their reserves, and they almost had to file for bankruptcy. Okay? So it was never designed to work at that kind of mass amount of money being let out or bled out of Fannie and Freddie. All right? It was never designed that way. But because of Clinton, Barney Frank, Dick Schumer, and there was one other fella in Congress in the mid-1990s, they allowed everybody to get a home loan. Drop the bar of what the parameters were for Fannie and Freddie to buy back the loans from these different banks that they had to do. So when that happened, when the bar was dropped, then that's when those 100% loans came into development. You would get an 80% first loan, and some bank would give you a 20% second loan. And they were insured. Okay? This is the stuff that under the Clinton presidency, they did. They lowered the bar of what the United States government, Fannie and Freddie Mac, had to take back in order so that they could take back more. Thus, the banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Chase would do riskier and riskier and riskier loans because they knew they were backed by the insurance company called Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, FHA and HUD, okay? And the VA. All right, so that after 15 and 20 years of that, when the subprime blew up in 2008, that's why the massive amount of foreclosures happened, okay? So you can blame Clinton. Oh, wait a minute, did I say Clinton? Oh, not this new Clinton, the old Clinton. Yeah, you can take those guys, yeah. All right, they dropped it. They dropped that bar. They changed at the legislative level, Okay. Now, I have to explain that for you to understand why this new program, which isn't really new, it just wasn't really marketed really well. But it's running out, and it's a great program. And it's called HARP, HARP. Okay, and HARP, the HARP loan program, eligibility and mortgage rates for 2016. Now, what the program is an interesting program because, well, first off, the Home Affordable Reliance Program, that's what it's called. So if you have a Fannie Mae loan or a Freddie Mae loan, in other words, you're making your mortgage payment every month, and that money is going to Fannie Mae because they own your note. It hasn't been paid off yet. They own your pink slip. Okay? So when you have that note, that grant deed that you have, or if you're in a trust deed state, it's a little bit different, but nevertheless, you don't own the pink slip yet. Okay? And you're making a payment. You're making a payment to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Okay? Or FHA and VA. We'll talk about that in a second. But Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, then you can qualify for this loan. And it has to be a Fannie and Freddie loan. Now, don't worry, because most of your loans are owned by Fannie and Freddie anyway. You may have one that isn't. Some of the newer loans after the subprime blowup are not. But you may have one that you've had for 10 or 15 years that still is. So this home loan reliance refinance program, it goes all the way back to 2009. But it really was in existence before 2009. But it really became something they started to try to promote in 2009. It gives homeowners whose homes have lost value the ability to refinance to current mortgage rates without incurring new mortgage insurance. See, when you put less than 20% down, you have to also pay for an insurance policy from a third party or to the United States government, a extra interest on that loan that you're paying every month. And it's about 0.875% of the loan that you pay every month. And you can't get rid of it. It's there for the life of the loan. It's called mortgage insurance. Okay? And so they make you pay for that as part of your note every month, your principal, your interest, your mortgage insurance, your taxes and your insurance you might be able to pay by yourself and not impounded into that every month. But if it's less than 20% down, they're impounded. In other words, one payment pays all. Okay? So because you put less than 20% down, you have no risk, not enough skin in the game. So they make you pay that mortgage payment. But under HARP, when you refinance under HARP, they will eliminate that mortgage insurance. Now, perhaps when you got your loan, that mortgage insurance, I saw it go all the way up to 1.25% of the balance you owe. I remember when it was that high. And it was, oh my goodness. So if you got a 7% loan, that loan is 8.25% just on the insurance alone. Okay? Now it's down to about 0.875. Okay? But you can see how that mark right there can dramatically drop the amount of money that you're spending every month because that interest hit is less. Make sense? Okay. So, regardless of the loan to value, and this is really important, the program was designed in 2009. Well, actually, before it was designed, they just never really had any functionality. But they gave it some teeth in 2009. Remember, I talked about the 2008 subprime blowup. Basically, in a nutshell, values dropped and mortgage payments and balances stayed the same. In fact, some of them even went up because people did those 80-20 loans that I talked to you about. They did those adjustable and neg-am loans, negative amortization loans. They were getting creative again in the early 2000s, getting a little confident. The banks were starting to loosen up. Well, they got tagged by this. And there's a very complicated set of things that happened. I'm not going to go into that. But the bottom line is the mortgage payments or the balances were going up, at the very least staying the same, not going down, and the values sunk below what the property was owed on. So you had what was called upside down. All right, loan to value. There was no loan to value. The loan was more than the value. So how could you refinance out of a 6 or 7 or 8% loan when the interest rates are now at 6, 5, or 4%, when your value, your property has no value? In fact, it's upside down. Well, that's what HARP was designed to help in. Allow you to get your appraisal, because they didn't care about the loan to value. In other words, if you had a $100,000 mortgage payment and that house was worth $200,000 at one time, but then it sunk down to $50,000 in all that mess that happened, then your balance is 100, but the value of the property is only 50. HARP didn't care. Does that make sense? Okay. Both those rules still are in play. All right. Now, the Home Affordable Refinance Program, it's available right now through September of 2017. I said February. I knew it was next year, but September 2017. The information, you can go online and get a lot of this stuff if you just Google search HARP. But I want to give you a couple of more things here as we go on. A HARP loan refinance, I'm just going to read you verbatim so there's no confusion. The HARP refinance program was started, which actually got meat and teeth behind it in April of 2009. It goes by several names. Government calls it Home Affordable Refinance Program. Most people call it HARP. The program is also known as Making Home Affordable Act. It's called the Obama Refi. It's called the Better Bargain for USA Homeowners, DU Refi Plus, HARP Mortgage, and Relief Refinance. These are some of the names. Now, your loan must be backed by Fannie or Freddie Mac. In other words, they got to be the insurer. They got to be the entity behind, as I talked to you. Now, you can go online and see if your loan is backed by Fannie and Freddie Mac. There's websites, you just put that in and it'll pop up. You put your basic information and it'll tell you if your loan is backed by Fannie and Freddie Mac. Now, your current mortgage must have a note date of no later than the 31st of 2009. In other words, if you started your note in 2008, you're disqualified. So May 31st of 2009, anything past that you got a loan on, you can utilize this program, okay? Also, USDA, if you're out there in farmland country and you have farm property, that is covered under this as well. And the VA is covered under this as well. Now, in terms of HARP programs, as I said, we're running out in September of 2017, so you have to get on the ball and get this done. When you start looking at the amount of monies that can be saved utilizing these HARP programs, it's astronomical. On an average, if you take the average mortgage across the United States of America and you work the HARP program into it because it's a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac backed loan, you're saving between $3,500 and $5,000 a year. $3,500 and $5,000 a year on interest payments. Because the interest is so low now compared to what you had, you don't have a loan to value problem, okay? And it was Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac backed, and your FICO scoring doesn't have to be as stringent and solid, and you don't have to have all the savings accounts and all of the type of other paperwork that you had to do to qualify. Then what happens is you can be eligible to get this kind of reduction. Now, if you're looking at $300 to $400 a month in savings, how could that help you? That could help a lot, especially when you start talking about $4,000 by the end of the year. It's really unbelievable that many people don't know about this program. Even if you have a jumbo loan, you can do it. A jumbo loan is something over $427,000. I'm sorry, $417,000. So even if you have a loan mortgage that's higher than that for those of us that live in more expensive areas, You can be involved in that too as well. If you have a balloon payment at the end of your mortgage, you may be able to use HARP as well. It depends on whether your loan is conforming and whether it's backed by Fannie or Freddie. Remember, Fannie or Freddie backed is what it has to be. Now, if you take that $3,000 or $4,000, just say $4,000 savings, and you spread that over a 30-year mark on your mortgage payment, do you realize the hundreds of thousands of dollars, certainly the tens of thousands of dollars you save in interest on your mortgage? It's a beautiful program because it lowers your monthly payment and it allows you to pay less for that mortgage at the end of 30 years. And it's an easy kind of qualifier kind of loan. Just some basic parameters need to be resolved. So what you need to do is you need to do a little homework on this if you're looking to refi. And give me a call. 818-800-1343, 818-800-1343. I'll certainly help you out here. No problem at all with that. So we can get you going in that respect. But that's not what this show was about. Here's something. Here's a trick. If you take and save $4,000 a year by doing this HARP program, I'm going to show you right now in about 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes, 30 seconds, how you can pay off that 30-year mortgage in 19 years. Okay? You take $2,000 of that savings of $4,000 and you make a principal payment reduction. You make one principal payment reduction every year for 30 years. You're going to turn a 30-year note into 19 years because it's principal reduction only. So you save $4,000, you put $2,000 away or spend it on pay your car payment off, and you take the other $2,000 and you make a 13th month payment, 12 months. You split it up. You make it at month 6, like put another month in there, month 7, you put $1,000, and then month 12, another month 13, you put $1,000. Why do you spread it up? Because in an amortization scale over 30 years, the more payments you make every year towards principal reduction, it reduces the balance faster. Your mortgage payment will stay the same, but mathematically it reduces the balance faster. You'll turn it a 30-year note into 19 years. Voila! That's simple, but you gotta be regular at it. That's the key. All right, so we talked a little real estate today, and I hope that helped you out. Every Wednesday, I'm going to at least try to put 30 minutes down in the wheelhouse of real estate just to help you guys out. I got a wealth of knowledge here, and I just hit the top buttons here. I mean, it's a much more detailed program, and it takes a lot more discussion, but give me a call or look us up here at thepowervoices.com because we bring you the real scoop, the real information, the best way we know, right here at thepowervoices.com. It's the Jesse T Show, live at 5. Monday through Friday, you're straight on the point. You entered the world of Torero. Now, the brown beauty is off duty. See ya.